Good morning, everyone. I just want to say this is PA News Sports Fact Check for truth. No lies, no cover up. Okay, I want to talk about the Doge, the wasteful spending for the United States of America. Hopefully, we all understand we can't continue to keep on wasting money. We have a deficit, and it's pretty high. So if we keep on going, we're going to go bankrupt. So I want to talk about the wasteful spending, and I think that we all agree on one thing. Let's pull differences aside. Independents, Democrats, and Republicans. Let's go with this a clear mind, not put politics into it. Okay. The issue is if we do not get rid of these wasteful spendings, I have a few I'd like to talk about. There's 22 million from the Health and Human Services to prove free housing and cars for undocumented migrants, confirmed by auditors. Now, this stuff that I'm getting, I picked 20, well, I actually picked 4 out of the 20 that Donald Trump had in his speech he had a couple nights ago, uh, which I want to get into more so of the wasteful spending, but I have to speak up about something that was pretty sad for the Democrats not to show appreciation or sadness or hope and feelings towards the cancer victim with the child, and also Riley that got killed and raped, and there's other families there that were there, and there was no clapping involved, which is pretty sad. Now, I'm going to get back, sorry for getting off the course here, but I want to get back to the wasteful spending. Uh, Back to that, it is 22 million, as I said before, from Health and Human Services to provide for free housing and cars for undocumented migrants, confirmed by the auditors from the Money uh, Government Auditor Association. And then the second one is 60 million for people in Afro-Colombian empowerment in Center America. U.S. aid supervised payments with no explanation of where the money went. We just know it was to Colombia. That's not good. Okay, now you're seeing what kind of wasteful spending we're going through, and we could go bankrupt. 32 million for the left-wing propaganda operation in Moldova. The Republic of Moldova has lost a part of their financial support, yeah, accounting to $32 million from the U.S. Intended for inter-news organizations that come from U.S. aid, and of course the government auditing. I went to a government website to find out the facts. Here's the next one: 42 million for social and behavior change in Uganda, supervised by the U.S. aid. Money was given to Johns Hopkins University to do something, but what? I mean, it's a reputable university, but we should always know the reasoning and what the money was used for, and it could have been used for something that's useful for the university, for students or something, but we don't know that. Okay. So on that standpoint, I picked 4 out of 20 that he said in the speech, and the 4 out of the 20 was the truth. So on that standpoint, with the national media and news outlets, you can't believe them. I'm sorry, but you can't. You need to stop listening to CNN, Fox, uh, CBS, NBC, Newsmax, and any kind of national media, because they do have a agenda, uh, and they're going to just talk about what your agenda is. And if you're aware of Megyn Kelly, she used to be on some of the national networks, and eventually she ended up having a podcast on YouTube. And she was going over when she was an anchor for some of these national media. She was at a couple different ones. And she noted that she had to say in the news whatever the director and stuff told them to say, whether it was a lie or not. So the accountability of these national networks, it isn't. So to rely on getting good news, hopefully you'll come here, and hopefully you'll like my news and subscribe. And that's just a new network that it has started, and I fact check everything, so you don't have to worry about me lying to you, because I don't lie. Okay, and I am independent, so that tells you something. I have my own mind. I don't let any news tell me what to think. I fact check, because it's our obligation as the people of the United States of America to know if it's the truth or not. What's happening to America? A lot of these news outlets, national media, is saying all this propaganda, and most of the people are believing what they hear. So the problem is they go in to vote, and they could be voting for the wrong person. So your obligation to be able to go out and find this research. And I recommend you to go on to YouTube. There's several that will give you the news, the truth about it. And I know some people don't like Bill O'Reilly, but he has his own podcast too, and he tells it like it is. Some of us older senior citizens knew who Bill O'Reilly is. So we want the truth, so we know who we're voting for and putting the right president in. So I know everybody gets busy and everything, and we get to caught up in children, but it's still, you got to take some time out to find out what's going on in the world, and make sure the information you're hearing is the truth. And that doesn't mean that you just take one time a month or a couple times a year and you listen to something, you go in the voting booth, and then you vote. That's not being accountable. Okay? So I'm going to move on to the wasteful spending to Mr. Donald Trump. This is truth and facts, but the propaganda says, a lot of them said he's a criminal. He's not a criminal. He had 36 counts of charges for Letitia James and also Jack Smith. It was dismissed. So, and you can always go check on, he had immunity. And in a case, if you don't know what immunity is, it's in the Constitution of the United States that all presidents have immunity in case there was something that happened. Maybe they made a call on something and something happened, and under their influence and the decision, we'll say somebody got killed. I'm just showing an example. It's so many examples I could show. So if he didn't have immunity, they could come back and said that, well, he caused the deaths of 10 or 15 people. And maybe there were so many other circumstances involved, but then they're going to go to prosecuting for every little thing there is. So you're weaponizing the government. So, on that standpoint, all presidents should have immunity because we are a free nation, and weaponizing the government would be considered to the standpoint as communist. Uh, so I believe in the Constitution of the United States of America, and everybody else should believe in that also. I am a Christian, and I believe in the Christian ways, and I believe in the Old Testament and the New Testament and the Bible, and I do feel that a lot of that is taken out of society that we need to get back to putting this in our family organization and skills. Uh, so on the standpoint that Donald Trump, uh, there was one of those charges that they charged against him is because of his real estate, that supposedly his real estate that he had was overpriced. So they saying because he was financial records were not accurate and he was committing basically a fraud. As we all know, the propaganda put it into a situation where it was fraud, okay? We all need to understand this. All of our assets, and if you're going to go out and get a loan, which he did, okay, the banks comes out and you have somebody look at your property and they value your property to see what assets before they're even give the loan. So if there was no issues from the banks and they were getting their payments back, and if there was an issue and he was committing payment frauds or anything like that, it's up to the banking system and who the bank was to file the charges against him. This is not a government that should be weaponizing the government for them to make that decision. It's not them to make the decision. You know, Letitia James is one of them that went after it. And ever since he went down that escalator, they've been after him. And the guy's been through a lot, as we know. And I know a lot of us don't like him, but the hatred just got to stop. I mean, if you already think of America, we are a free nation, and we do not want to have anything taken away. And we don't want a government-run system. We don't want the government to tell us what to do with our money or wasteful spending. It's just common sense. So take away you being a Democrat and an independent and a Republican, and just use your mind and common sense. Okay. So what's wrong with having Doge going into checking whether wasteful spending? We all know that, I have been at speculation for many years, and I'm 63 years old, that we know there's corruption in the government. All this is going to prove that they're wasteful spending our money, and and the way the situation is going, with the deficit, we could go bankrupt. So if you don't like that, and you don't agree with that, I don't see how you cannot agree with it, So on that standpoint, we go on to the next standpoint, okay? Why do most Americans, okay, I gotta restate it, not most Americans, why is there probably about 40% of Americans in this country, which is mostly Democrats, believe that men, that it's okay to be women's sports? Now let's be realistic here. We're born a male or a female. In God's eyes, that's just biological, okay? It's in the Bible. It's in the New and the Old Testament. The men are born with testosterone. The bone structure is totally different. They have more strength than a woman, okay? So you can't have them, men and women's sports. Come on. Think about what I'm saying here. You can't have it. If anything, maybe they ought to make up a transgender for the Olympics for field and hockey. That's just an example. Excuse me, that's just an example. So that gives them the right to participate in their own field in their own gender. But it's not our fault that they're making the transition over. They have to deal with the consequences. And they could go to their districts and stuff and complain, and maybe have the Democrats do something, make it a law, or Republicans and Democrats get together and, have a transgender, on track in Olympics. And that's just, like I said, is an example. So that would solve some of that problem. And like I said, again, you transgenders got to stop this crap out there. You are the one that's making that decision, and that's okay. But there's consequences that comes after that. And you're going to have to face the fact we all judge people by their character and not their race, And there's another thing the national media does is they end up saying that a lot of Americans are racist and stuff. And then, you go living in the past, 200, 300 years ago when we had slavery and stuff, and then there's still people today think that they're fighting that war. We're not fighting that war, and we all know it. If you look at the freedom we all have, is much more than a communist country. So you ought to kiss the ground that you walk on and here and appreciate the United States, what freedom you have, and stop complaining and bitching about what Donald Trump's trying to do, because he's seen that America is first. So if you really look at his policies, it's what they stand for. Okay. So now I want to go on to with Donald Trump. He had, of course, he had shot several. The shooter tried to shoot him and assassinate him. Of course, I think we all know there was some cover up with that going on, and somebody might disagree, but it's too obvious. Usually when they go out to these sites, they have a supervisor to check all these buildings and to make sure that all the snipers are in the right position, and there should be one on that building. Bottom line, so the supervisor who went through and looked at everything, surveyed everything, make sure that everybody was where they're supposed to be. He's at fault, and we'll never know who the names are. They will end up being released in confidentiality, that they won't be named, but they won't be fired. They'll get pay and service pay and stuff. Of course, now the private sector, if it was us, we get fired and we get released, but it's totally different with the government. So, on the standpoint of that part, now I'm going to go on to the speech that happened the other night, or a few nights ago. We are people. We have feelings. God gave us feelings and compassion. Okay? Why are you putting politics into feelings of love? Okay, so why? I want to know why in comments, whoever these Democrats are out there, why didn't they stand? Is the only reason I can figure out why they didn't stand is because they hated Donald Trump. Wrong reason, sorry. You gotta have feelings and compassion. The kid that had cancer, he was an honorary police officer, honorary Secret Service that they made him, and then you have Raleigh that was raped and killed. You gotta feel for those people. And the illegals came into this country and killed our own citizens. Isn't that America first? I mean, we gotta have some compassion. Let's really think about what we're doing here. So moving on to the speech, the way I look at it, at that night that I was watching him, it wouldn't have mattered what Donald Trump would have did. It didn't, because they hated him so bad. And here's the funniest part. If he could walk on water, they would ask him if he could swim, because they wouldn't get the point. Okay? So, it don't matter what good he would do in this United States. It wouldn't. And, you got the women there who are dressed in pink, and they're supposed to support women. Okay? They're not. Don't believe in this propaganda bullshit, because if they were, then why didn't they stand for some of the policies, the executive order that Donald Trump said about the transgenders not being women's sports? Makes you think, don't it? Is it because they want the power back? Is it because they lost that power? And because Donald Trump is not a politician, he is a businessman. That's why they hate him, because all the bureaucrats and all these other offices and all these agencies and stuff that it's top loaded, and it needs to be eliminated, because all this money can be used for senior citizens, people with vets that have that issues when they come back from wars and stuff. Could be used for nursing homes. It could be used for so many things. But if you look at the policies when Biden was, we had inflation. There was cover-up. It's the truth. Even Kamala Harris said straight out that he was no problems after that debate, that Biden was normal and he had no brain issues and no dementia or anything medically involved, and he was completely healthy, and we all knew it was a lie. And then everybody calls Donald Trump, democracy, he's against democracy. Really, if you think about it, did you vote Kamala Harris in? If you're talking about democracy, you didn't vote her in. You know who voted her in? You had Obama involved in that, Nancy Pelosi and the rest of them. You had no decision on that. Doesn't it sound familiar? Doesn't it sound like how communist countries do? That's what they do. They choose, the government chooses who they want to be a prime minister or president. So on this, I'm going to just leave you go. I'm hoping that you subscribe down at the bottom. And if there's any comments, be free to say something. And please be open-minded about everything, and, hopefully you get love and, listen to God, the Bible, and the New Testament, or the Old Testament. I mean, there's two versions. But God don't want war. And we want peace. I mean, that's what Donald Trump is trying to do. And I think we'll have a peace treaty and get it done. It may take a while. He's been in office in 52 days, and all these Democrats come out and say, well, he didn't have the inflation to get it down. Look at the eggs. Well, the eggs wasn't caused by him. The inflation wasn't caused by him. The inflation was here 4 years ago. So it's going to take a while for this stuff to come down. And nothing wrong with tariffs. Maybe we suffer a little bit, but he just using that for negotiation tool, And that's a good thing, And it's because it's America first. And the next thing I want to know is the terrorists, the drug cartels. What's wrong with that? They have so many drugs laboratories down in Mexico and China and stuff. The fentanyl. They've killed millions and millions of our kids. This needs to be put to a stop. And with the illegals coming across, our forefathers, came in legally. Donald Trump doesn't hate people at all. He loves them. He just wants you to come over legally. Because if you really think about it, if he didn't love people, in his speech, he had compassion. He had feelings towards people that were there. It was the Democrats that didn't have the feelings. Okay? I can cover a lot of stuff here, but this video is getting pretty long. So I'm going to end it here, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Over and out.